Jim was reading the names and they was handing them out. She never told you and she throw it at you. Want to drink? She said, they made out good. I said, you don't know how to be thankful.
You're being
Just
watched.
having so much and some of the kids don't even know what's always are.
Do that again.
Yeah.
You're crazy. So you gonna go to the beach? Yes.
Can't tell you that. Good Lord might have another plan.
No.
Well, now, my son's place, we always got to dinner, you know, and we take a gift and put numbers on it, which one.
You do.
I don't know what not or something. All of us has got more.
Have you guys anything better to do?
And,
We ran out of interesting things to do.
What?
Take my garbage, y'all. You stole my garbage.
Stole your garbage.
I ain't gonna tell nothing.
Pauline.
No, they won't tell.
No, tell me about
you
when
know
you got
I knows
married.
how
This
it
is for
goes.
my
No.
children.
You tell.
This
You know
is for my
everything.
children.
You tell them.
No.
No, you tell them.
I'll tell them.
What'd you wear when you got married?
Look at
Nothing.
that picture and you'll see.
Nothing.
That blue suit with a hat on.
Yeah, but did you wear a cummerbund?
No.
You didn't have your underwear on either, did you? Did you have your
Mama.
Power Ranger panties?
Wayne.
That thing on.
Did you have your Power Ranger
Him and
panties?
Diane carried on like that all the time we was going to Las Vegas. The first time me and him and Lane went up there.
But did you have your Power Ranger underwear on?
I never heard tell a Power Ranger underwear.
Well, now
Yeah,
tell,
but you had some kind of powerful underwear to get 8 kids.
Uh,
I don't have it on, Pauline.
you better, yes you have.
You better, yes, you
You
have.
can't fool Pauline in that.
Mom says I'm a professional in front of that camera.
Well, Mom,
This guy's gonna
tell us
make
this
it all the
much.
way.
Where was
He's
you
gone.
at when
Oh.
Ellen was conceived?
Out Floyd.
Were you?
Uh-huh.
Where?
We borrowed Fred's car and went out Floyd. I went home with Ed and them and stayed a week. And Daddy rode the train and come down there and we borrowed Fred's car and went to Floyd.
Remember all them times we used to load that pickup truck up, throw a mattress in there and get Ain't Even, Ray,
Bobby Dean and Ronnie,
and we'd all go to Floyd. Seemed like it took a week to get
Francis and Dick. And Jim used to sleep all the way. He
Oh, drag me into it.
we had Terry in the middle of us and Jim on my lap. And he'd go to sleep just as soon as we get him in the car. He never knowed he rode to Floyd nor back either one.
It's a
As soon
very
as we
boring
get him in the car.
What do
Debbie,
you
That's a
kids
good
was
baby.
conceived on the mattress?
No, that's when we was out Floyd. We think that's what it was.
That's Floyd, Virginia.
Turn that thing off for a minute.
But when I thought Ellen was conceived, because I had my period while I was at Edna's in Paris, and then Ernest come out there and we borrowed Fred's car and went to
You know,
Floyd.
Dad was horny after not having that.
That's a long trip, buddy.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, before you come, you bring me some panties, because I didn't have any good ones when I come up here. I said, you get me some.
Even those
He
were
come
spotted
and
up.
He brought some little tiny ones, about that big. Now, I had to
Power
give 'em to
Rangers.
Lloyd.
I told you got you some Power Ranger underwear.
He said, I said, well, what'd you get them for? I just picked up the first thing I seen. Did you think I was going to stretch them up and see what size it was?
He bought you some of them Power Ranger underwear,
I give them
didn't
to
he?
Laura. She was just a little bitty thing.
Well, tell about the day you got married. The guy wouldn't do
I done
it.
told you all
But I
that.
didn't get it on tape.
Tell him, Mom.
Well, in July, we went and run off to get married. Rode a taxi to Princeton. Got over there, and I told him I was 18 years old. And Ernest was 21. Ernest was, well, he would have been 21 the 25th September, and that was 18th September when we got him. But this was in July. We slipped off to get married once. And he said, how old are you? And I said, 18. He said, you ain't done it? Said, you one of Charlie's twins. And he said, I'm going to give you the papers, fill the papers out for you, and you take them home and let Charlie and Ellie sign them. And so Ernest told him we would. Well, we got outside and there's no guy sitting out there on the porch, and Ernest tried to,
Bribe him.
was going to give him some money to sign for him, and I wouldn't let Ernest. So we come on back. Ernest Underwood was with us, that I went to school with. He was driving the taxi. And we come on back, and then next time we went to get was 18th September.
Why did you wait till September?
Because that was my birthday.
No, I had started the school. I went to school 2 weeks after we got married. I had started school the 1st of September. Well, you know about when school starts.
Did you know I was
And,
born on their anniversary? Oh, okay. Greatest anniversary yet there.
So I told Poppy that I was going to get married whether he signed it or not. And
Did he like Ern?
yeah, I reckon he did. And then Mommy said, well, you better write a note then and sign it and tell Laurie to let her have it. Lowery was his name. We always said Laurie Boulder. And so I did, and I just signed it, you know what I said. And he got over and he said, now that wasn't Charlie's signature. And he said, you take these back home and get your daddy and mother to sign them, and you can get the license in. So we was, Irby had a studio in Princeton, so we went down to Irby's studio, and Lola signed one name and I signed the other. And Ernest took back up her in his lunchtime, and he was out to lunch, so the girl let Ernest have him. And we had to come over on 3rd Street then and get married.
So you married illegally?
We married a preacher that lived next
You
door
married
to
a
May.
preacher?
And Ernest
You got
Ewing.
8 illegal kids.
So we come over there and got married, and then he said we'd have to go back to Princeton and get the marriage certificate, and he would fill it out.
So you really were married illegally, weren't you?
And we never did go get that marriage certificate. But he said it's on record anyway. He said,
So you don't have a copy of it?
Yeah, I have now.
Oh.
And
Are you really married?
then we never did go get it, and then when Ernest was in service, I didn't have the kids' birth certificates and his marriage license, so I mean our marriage certificate. So I had to go to Princeton. I went over as Irby went,
To get food stamps?
and I've got the kids' birth certificates and our marriage license.
Didn't you have to have them to get
You were married in
food stamps?
1934?
Huh?
1934?
Uh-huh. We had to have
September the 18th, remember that?
we had to have books of stamps to get food with during the war.
Yeah.
And shoes and things like that. You could only. Now, Papa, he didn't buy a pair of shoes. You got so many a year, you know, or a month.
But didn't you trade sugar stamps for something?
You had to have stamps for sugar and stamps for.
Milk.
No, it wasn't milk. It was sugar and coffee, I believe it was.
Okay.
And we had to have stamps for shoes, but Poppy didn't wear out a pair of shoes. Oh, he could wear a pair of shoes 5 years. He never did use his, so, and you could buy old sandals, either with heels on or flat heels for women, without stamps. They was canvas-like, and I'd wear them all the time, and I'd use the food stamps.
Anything with leather.
The stamps for the kids that went to school.
Anything with leather, you had to have food stamps?
You had to have, they wasn't food
Stamps, yeah,
stamps.
stamps.
So,
Food stamps
when the
for
kids
shoes.
needed a pair of shoes and I didn't have no stamp, I'd use Poppy's stamp.
What was I conceived in?
I don't know.
Huh? Was I?
Was I really an accident, Mom?
Is Jim adopted?
I guess y'all was.
Everybody said I was an accident.
Is Jim
Ellen told
adopted?
him he was a jinx. She calls him a changed life baby.
Change your life, baby.
How old were you when you had Jim?
61.
No, 39
I
or
was
something.
43 years old when I had that radium, and you was 5 years old, so how many?
He's 38.
38.
Gosh, it'd be like me having
Well,
one now.
I'm 77 and you're 40. I was 37 years old.
Did
Are
you
you
just
40
turn
years
40,
old?
Jim?
Man, you're an old man. You're older than me.
I did not know you were 40.
Now, Lynn raced that,
Just turned
Lynn
40.
raced all that stuff.
No, I got it on tape now, Pauline.
She's going to race it, won't she?
Now, I'll call you Lynn from now on.
I don't
She
care
ain't
what
got
you
no
call me,
video
just call
of
me
it.
for dinner.
If
Okay,
Brenda and
Wayne.
Nancy come in, Brenda and them come in, and 1 week, and then Diane and Ellen and them come in next week, I'd call Brenda Diane.
Just confuses you, doesn't it?
She'd say, now, Grandma, I'm not Brenda, I'm
Well,
Diane.
what was your hardest child to bring into the world? Which one you had most trouble with?
Ellen.
Well, who's the meanest? Who was the meanest child as far as
You know who the mean.
Now
mischievous?
wait just a cotton picking minute here.
Who is the most well behaved?
Nancy.
Who's the sweetest?
Who was the sweetest? Debbie.
No, I'll have to say that Nancy was the best young'un. When we lived over with Poppy, I would do Lola's ironing and Edna's ironing and things to make some money and things, you know. And Nancy'd get her catalog and set up in the middle of Poppy's bed. She'd sit there all day long and look at that catalog and say this is what she's going to buy and this is what she's going to buy and this and that, you know. And she wasn't one bit of trouble. And she never would tell you a lie. And when we used to have stamps and things to get sugar and things with, if I went to town, Ellen would slip and make candy. And she'd tell Nancy if she told it she was going to beat her to death or break her finger or
I
something
think
like
Ellen
that.
and Wayne came out of the same
And,
mold.
That's the first thing Nancy would tell me. And Miss Ratliff and them was up at Walter's one day. He lived up on the hill, and I went to town that morning to get some groceries. I always had to ride a taxi home, you know, with my groceries. And I rode the bus over, and I went to town, and I left them to, I had to go on 8:30 bus. And they come down to the house from up at Walter's, Mr. and Miss Ratliff did. And I left the house and told them I wanted them dishes washed now when I got back and everything. And Miss Ratliff said Sue was so sick when she come back that she just had to wash them dishes. That's the first thing Ellen told me when I come in. Said, Mommy, Sue didn't wash them dishes. She made Grandma wash them. Miss Ratliff said, oh, Sue had off a stomach ache till I got them dishes washed, and said she didn't have a stomach ache at all.
All right, who's your youngest baby?
Who was your youngest or the dumbest? Dumbest
I'll
youngest?
get in here somehow.
Oh, Jim was
Poor
the youngest.
Jim.
Well, how do you mean that? How was I the meanest?
And the bow-legged one.
How was I the meanest? Tell me.
Got that on tape.
Mother.
Mom, I don't have bow legs.
Mother.
Used to have to wear correct tall shoes, don't you?
Pauline.
Remember them shoes built up
Well, I
on the side?
remember all that. How old was I?
Jim.
I
2 or
don't know,
3.
but I told old Doctor
Haviar.
Rob one time when I took you to him, I said, my daddy said if I take them diapers off, you know, you used to pin 2 or 3 diapers on them to keep them from wetting on the floor because you didn't have rubber pants and things.
Right.
And I said, my daddy said if I take them diapers off him, he wouldn't be bow-legged. He said, what's the matter? Is your daddy a doctor?
Well, listen to me just a minute. How do you consider me the meanest?
Because Ellen and Sue and Nancy spoiled you to death. You'd go through the house, you'd unplug everything in the house and tear up everything you could find.
Well, what was my favorite toy when I was doing
Picking your nose.
Your hands, I reckon.
No, a can of milk. A can of carnation cream.
Oh, you hit Daddy with in the
I'd roll that thing all over the house.
Well, you went and Daddy was
Sleeping
on the couch over at Poppy's when we lived over with him. And Fred used to get me carnation milk. I had to raise him on carnation milk. He was allergic to everything else. And
Oh, even the problem when
Fred
you
used to
look.
get
I ain't been
it
able to
for me
suck
by the
kids
case
since.
down Farmer Packing Company and get it real cheap. And I had a case sitting on the old table in the kitchen where we had work table, you know. And he went and would get that milk and roll it around over the floor. And he was going through the house. He could just walk real good, you know. And, well, he couldn't walk very good. He's still tottery on his legs. And he got up with this can of milk and went and hit his daddy over and blacked his daddy's eye. And Ernest hit him like that, and he had all them diapers on, you know, and he fell down and busted his mouth. He's always had a big lip ever since.
I'm getting out of here.
Always had that black lip on you, boy.
You want me to tell something on you? And Ellen and Sue, I thought
Always had those big
I thought
lips.
they was going to murder Ernest. They like to beat him to death.
Was that when Ellen slammed the door on him and kicked the door in? And
No, she got a letter, and he handed her the letter, and he said, I'm going to read it first. And she said, no, you ain't going to read my letter. And he said, yes, I am. And
she jerked it away from him.
she jerked it away from him, and he got after him, looking like he's going to take it away from him. And she slammed the door. The bedroom you went in here then, that little bedroom.
That was Dad's room.
And the old
Mama.
doors that he put up
No,
wasn't very
Mama had
good.
this room right here.
And he kicked a hole in that door. And she went and crawled out the window and went over Poppy's, and he kept waiting for her to come out. He said he's going to whip her, and he kept waiting for her to come out and wreck her and Poppy come over here to the house. She went and brought Granddaddy with
That
her.
was always the place to go hide if
Well,
you got
now-
in trouble.
Now, Wayne was your dad's favorite, right?
Him and Nancy. Boy, he'd fight you over Nancy. David,
He was always whipping on us. He'd get that
David
razor
question
strap after
collar,
me and Terry.
he's the assessor. He graduated you and Wayne, you and Tim.
David.
He lived up
Chapman?
in there from Perkins.
Oh.
He said y'all used to come out to Flannery's store and said y'all always have a nickel to spend.
Yeah, he'd always give me a nickel. I'd go get 4 cigars. You could get 4 King Edward cigars for a quarter.
Yeah.
He'd give me 30 cents. And I'd get a nickel's worth of candy, and I'd come back and all these kids, man, they'd cry. They
And
wouldn't piece that candy
David
so
said
bad.
that
I just teased them.
Wayne and Tim would go out there and they'd always have money, and said his mother sent him to the store and said she told him to get a half a gallon of milk and several other things, and she'd give him a $5 bill. And she's supposed to got back $1.60 change. And said that he took later change on the table, later 60 cents on the table, and took out and went to play. She said, David said, where's my change at? He said, I put it on the table. She said, I was supposed to get back $1.60, and it's just 60 cents. Well, I said, Wayne and Tim was out there and they had money and I wanted to spend some too for some foolishness. And she said, did you spend the whole dollar to eat foolishness? Yeah, I'm afraid I did. I was kind of hungry today. And said then one time said that his cousin was there and she said, you know, said, let's get us some cigarettes and smoke them. Said, that's the best thing. Said, they taste so good and everything. He said, well, said, his mother's going to send him to the store, you know. And said, he said, well, now I'll tell you, if Mr. Flannery's behind the counter, he won't let us have them. But said, if David Arnold's behind the counter, he'll let us have them.
David Arnold.
Yeah, so he said that he went and said David was behind the counter, Mr. Flannery's out to lunch and everything. And said that they got him a pack of cigarettes and said that then you know you could get matches free, books of matches. He said he sanded around over and picked him up a book of matches, you know, without David looking at him. And so said he took his mother's groceries in and everything, and she said, now where will we smoke our cigarettes? Said, oh, we'll go up in the woods and smoke them, he said. And said they went up there and said they just puff and puff and puff. Said you'd think the woods was on fire but to smoke up that pack of cigarettes before they went back home. And said that when they got home, said his mother said, well, how was your cigarettes? He said, what cigarettes? She said, them cigarettes y'all smoking up there. He said, how'd you know? She said, I stood here and washed dish and watched it. Said, I thought the woods was on fire. I fixed and called police.
We used to sneak and smoke them and eat while.
Smartest kid in school, Pauline. Who did the best in school?
Nancy.
What was Nancy the perfect child?
Man, that's
Almost. She was the best little old thing. She went a bit. We went. I used to take them to the movies.
I was showing I saw the roof of our
They thought they could see their daddy in the newsreel.
sorry, whatever it was on her bed.
She didn't talk for 15 cents.
They'd go. Well, it didn't cost me anything for all of them under 6 years old.
That's shampoo or something.
No, you can't. You call
So
me your
we
punch.
go to movies.
What is that?
Some guy got to talking to me.
Oh my God.
Oh, he was just flirting away
Yes,
with
he
me,
did.
you know. And Nancy got jealous, and she got up out of her seat and got up on the arm of the seat between me and that guy. And Poppy was uptown with us. It was at night. And Poppy's uptown with us, and we'd go ride at 9 o'clock. He was going to meet us up Kreski's. He liked to go up there and talk to old people, you know. And he was going to wait on us up Kreski's, and we went on up Kreski's, and he was up at Kreski's. He brought me a bottle of perfume, and I was fixing to buy Nancy some little socks with the lace on them and things, and he took and paid for them for me, and I know.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Did you ever tell Dad about it?
I think Ellen and Sue told him, I
Let's
think.
tell him now.
What, was Arn
Work his heart.
your only boyfriend, or
Oh, no, I had a lot of boys.
Mom.
what about Arn? Did he have a lot of girlfriends?
I don't know. I didn't know her until I met him.
And how did you meet him?
At church. He come to church with Miss Earl Bale and them. They lived down there.
Well, let's get a little personal.
And Mary wanted to introduce
Your
me to
daughter.
Walter.
Wayne. Don't even ask.
Mary said she wanted me to meet her brother
I
Walter.
wouldn't do that.
And I said, I don't want to meet him. I want to meet the other one.
Because you'd seen him at church.
Well, no, I just seen him at church. I'd seen him walking up and down the
Looks
road.
good, Em.
He was
You
in the
got some
CC
tangles in
camps,
there
and he
still.
had this
Get 'em off.
uniform on. And I'd seen him walking up and down the road, so I found out who he was and everything, you know. And then when he
Harold
come
had
down
him
to
right
his
out
mother's
there.
to stay, well, he come to
You
church.
have to do her hair up
and
there.
Well, I'd seen him
Yeah.
before. Me and Francis sleigh riding off the hill one day, and we seen him coming. And Francis Holland
That's the one
told
she
him,
rips the arms
wait a
off
minute,
of.
I wanted to ask him what his name was. And he acted like he didn't hear me or kept going or something. Mary said he was so bashful, that was the reason. But she wanted me to meet Walter, and I said, no, I don't want to meet Walter, I want to meet the other. So then Miss Earl Bailey told me who he was then. And then the next Sunday, Howard Helton was supposed to come. I was supposed to be going to Howard Helton, so instead of bringing Howard Helton home for dinner, I brought him home. And Charlie Bailey told a tale on him, said that Ernest didn't know what a table linen was, and said he ended up to our house and said Mama had a table linen, a white table linen on the table, and said Ernest thought it was his shirt tail, and he was cramming his breeches and pulled all the dishes off the table. And told the same tale on Howard Helton. And we used to have an old thing like a Stein thing go round and round to go in the little schoolhouse up there where we had church. And Ernest used to be Goosey. And this old man, his name was Boatenhammer, lived over there in the section and come to our church. And Charlie Bailey knew Ernest was Goosey because Ernest worked for him, you know. And Charlie was behind Ernest and he reached up and goosed him like that. He grabbed that old bald-headed man, just mauled him good. And he didn't know the man. Ernest's face turned just as red, and that old Ernest said, I'm sorry. He told Charlie, said, if you ever do that again, I'm going to kill you. And he said one time May sent him to the store after 2 quarts of milk when she lived on Preston Street. He had just come home from a CC camp and said Warren Ratliff, his cousin, said he's coming uphill there from where the old hospital used to be, you know, St. Luke, carrying that milk, and said that Warren run up and goosed him. And said this big old colored woman walking in front of him. He said, my God, what a big nick. Said Ernest said that old woman turned around and Ernest said he broke him 2 quarts of milk over Warren Ratliff's head.
Well, once you met Ern and everything, how long after that did you get married? How old were you when you met him? I mean, was it
How long
like...
did you date? No.
Oh, about 3 or 4 months, I guess.
Was love at first sight? No.
Sounded like it.
Ray Shoemate used to drive our school bus. I used to go with Ray. I went with Kemper Hendricks that lived in New York.
You just cat about town, wasn't you?
And I went with Fred Gerald. Let's see. No, I went with Ray.
What, you were 17 when you got married?
I'd have been 18 in March. Yeah.
When did you start dating all these men?
I don't know, honey. People dated earlier then.
They got
People
married when
always
you was
grown up
13,
then.
14 years old.
I was bigger then. No, I am not.
But they liked, your mom and dad liked Ern?
I reckon. Mommy never did. It seemed like she cared too much for him. He was always too slow about doing anything. She told him to pick up a rug one time and take it and hang it out on the line where she scrubbed it. And he was reading or something and he was fooling around. Well, I'll get it in a few minutes. She got mad at him. She took that rug out there and slammed it up on that line herself.
So he was always so slow about doing things?
Yeah. He wanted to do it his way.
Well, that's bad.
Well, how long did it take Dad to build this house? About 2 years, wasn't it?
Oh, Lord, I don't know. Me and him's worked over here many mornings, 2 and 3 o'clock.
So, when you got married, where did you live?
What's that?
We lived with Poppy.
And then he built this house?
No, no, we lived down there at Rhodes's place. You know where Mrs. Hartwell lived?
Yeah.
Right across up in the woods there. That's the first time we went to housekeeping. And then he worked on the farm down there. And then he took Quincy, and Mr. Rhodes claimed he had to have somebody right now, so Berta Gerald went to work
What's
in his
Quincy?
place. His throat swelled up and he couldn't even talk nor nothing. They had to lance it. And then he hired Berta Gerald in his place, so Papa just went down there with the wagon and moved our furniture. Lola had just built her house up there where Miss Blackwell lives, and she had a room she didn't have no furniture in. We put our furniture in there. And then he went to work at Landgrave in the mines, rode with Uncle Al. He used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and walk over past Oakhurst, where you know where Sally lives, and ride with Uncle Al to Landgrave. And
That's a long walk.
we stayed over there with Mommy. See, it was just me and Francis at home. Well, Emmett was home. But
John had walked it.
Was it when y'all lived at Grundy that,
we didn't live at Grundy.
well,
You used to live at
Landgraf,
Landgraf.
whenever there was like a graveyard underneath your house?
Yeah.
You had kids over there.
Sue lived, Sue was
Y'all lived over top of a graveyard, didn't you?
lived in the pool hall up over then there was a graveyard under. I didn't know it till your daddy told me they'd been down under there playing poker. One night we heard an awful racket and something, just a thumping, and
Moaning.
ours and
Was
them
Dad
had left
there?
Bobby Dean with us and went to the movies, and Bobby couldn't talk nor nothing, couldn't say very much. She called Ernest da da da, like that, and I reckon Ernest looked so much like her daddy that she really thought he was her dad, and Ellen slept with us all the time anyway, and so that night when we went to bed, she slept next to Ernest because she wanted to sleep next to Daddy. And so she got next to Ernest, and Ellen was next to me then. No, Ellen was behind me. I was between Ernest and Bobby, and then Ellen behind me. And in the night, she wouldn't go to sleep, and Ernest said, get up here on Daddy's chest and go to sleep. He got her up there and patted her on the back till he got her to sleep, and then he kind of eased her over between me and him. And here we heard that noise, thump, thump, thump. And Ernest got up. I said, Ernest, don't go up down there. Oh, yeah. So he got his old light that he had in the mines and lit it and went up down there. And he said he had him a big rock in his hand and said he could see the bulk of something. Said he throwed that rock, and when he hit that old cow, she had a bell on. She went, oh, and that bell went to ringing out.
Cow was hung up under the house.
And so she got out and under there. And then one day I heard something just a crying and a carrying on, and I thought it was somebody up near the house and things, and it moaned and went on like that all the time. I said, Ellen said, go in there and get your shoes and let's put them on. We're going over to Aunt Riney's. Aunt Riney run the clubhouse there, Mommy's sister. I said, we're going over to Aunt Riney's and wait till Daddy comes in. And she said, no, she's hungry. I said, well, wait and I'll give you something. No, she called her Riney all the time because she couldn't talk so. I said, wait and I'll give you something over Riney's to eat. So
Well, that's how you do
we
it.
was fixing to go, and John Wilkerson built that big fine house up on the hill. Well, that was his son built that fine house up on the hill, but he drove the Imperial ice cream truck, and he said he thought he'd stop and see how we was. And I told him we was going over to Aunt Riney's, and we went on over, and I didn't tell him nothing about that. We stayed over to Ernest, and Ernest went and looked, and it was no dog up down there, and that old dog was nearly dead. Whining and carrying on.
And they used to play cards on the
Tombstone.
tombstone.
They all fell over.
So Ellen slept with y'all a lot?
My kids always did sleep with us. We never did have a baby bed till Cookie K gave Ernest one before Wayne was born. I used it for him, and
You mean I never did get to sleep with you, huh?
yeah, you slept with me some. So you was pretty good size. And then, well, when we moved over here, we slept with Wayne and Tim, and Ellen and Sue and Nancy slept in one bed. See, we just had two beds when we lived over here.
Well, when we slept upstairs, did me and Jim sleep together and Tim and Terry sleep together?
Yeah, that was in later years.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
remember it being so cold up there. And Jim always had the coldest feet, and I would let him put them between my legs to get them warm.
And I used to,
That's when we had that old feather bed.
Yep.
Well,
Remember at night you
how was
drove
it that, who
Oh, that
was it
went
that you
up.
named, I know you named Ernest after Ernest, but
well, when we lived down here at the Rose place, they had a little old boy. Oh, he was about 4 or 5 years old, I guess. He had the prettiest red curly hair. And he just followed Ernest everywhere. Everything Ernest went to do, he was right in behind there. Ernest thought that was the cutest little old boy, and his name was Wayne Rhodes. And Ernest said if we ever had a little boy, he's going to name him Wayne. And then Ellen was the girl, and Sue was the girl, and Nancy was the girl. And then when Wayne was born, he was the boy. I said, well, what you going to name him? You know what I'm going to name him, he said. So I'm going to name him Wayne. I said, well, I'll put Ernest with him. So he's got the same initials as Dad's got.
so Ellen was named after,
Mommy and Miss Ratliff.
and
Who
then
was my
Nancy.
name there?
I'm getting to you. We're going down the line.
Oh.
What about Nancy?
Nancy has got part of Miss Ratliff's name. Her name's Nancy Carroll, but we hadn't picked out no name for her, so Dr. Van Reen gave me a book and had Nancy Carroll in it, and I said, that's a pretty name.
What about Sue?
Let's name her Nancy Carroll. And then Henry come up there. Henry lived downstairs of us, and he said, how come y'all named her after Mommy, too, after naming Ellen after Mommy? And I said, I didn't know your mother's name was Nancy. He said, yeah, Mommy's name is Nancy Elizabeth. And see, Ellen's name is Ellen Elizabeth. My mother's name was Ellen. Poppy called her Ellie also.
What about Tim? Or Sue? Sue.
Well, a little old boy at Landgrave, I had to have a breast pump to pump my breast because it's all swelled up, and Aunt Riney told me Miss Rubel had one. And this little old Bobby Rubel, oh, he was the craziest thing about babies, you know, and he wanted to come to see that baby since it was born. So Aunt Ronnie told him, said, go up there and ask your mommy if she'll loan us that breast pump of hers. And he said, if you'll let me name that baby, I will. I said, well, what you going to name it? He said, I'm going to name her Mary Sue. So I let him name her Mary Sue. Didn't go get that. And then when Terry was born, Nancy went with a boy named Terry. He was a cousin to Mickey Cowell down here. What is Terry's name?
Terry.
What
is Terry's name?
And so she wanted to name him Terry, and Ernest had a boss named Craig, and he said name him Terry Craig.
Okay, so then who's Tim? And what about Tim?
Now Tim, his name's Timothy Lawrence.
Okay.
But I used to listen to a story on radio, and they asked this little old boy what his name was, and he'd say Timothy Lawrence Jr. And he just talks so cute. I thought that was the cutest thing, so I named him Timothy Lawrence, and he never did like it.
So what about Debbie?
Let's see.
What's her name?
Deborah
Ellen
Lynn.
named Debbie.
Ellen named
Deborah
Debbie.
Lynn.
And then
Nancy
Nerdville.
named him James Edward. Let's see, who was it she was going with then?
y'all were named after boyfriends.
He's named
Not
after
me.
some
I was
old
named
flake.
after my daddy.
Named after some flame.
Wayne.
He's named Ernest Wayne. You remember how Dolph Mariotti and them called you Ernie?
Little Ernie.
And we went,
Ernie.
I fought that all through school. Little Ernie. Even the grown-ups
you
around
know
here
when
would
we
call me
went to
Little
Washington
Ernie.
for you to bowl, and that girl from, where was she from, Alderson, West Virginia?
Yeah.
Someplace here in West Virginia. Anyway, she said, come on, Ernie, you going to bowl with us? Or are you going with us to the White House? And she kept calling Wayne Ernie all the time.
Well, then when you wore those glasses in school, I guess you did look like Ernie.
Yeah.
Ernest never did wear glasses.
Me. Big old.
Later.
But he did, didn't he?
I never did wear glasses. I got some glasses when the war was going on. The man tested my eyes and he said I need glasses. And I got them, and when Wayne was little, he pulled them off the chest and broke them, and I never did get no more glasses. Till I got till I couldn't see, and then I had to get me some glasses.
Well, I've done been drummed the meanest.
He pulled our radio off and broke it all to pieces.
How about the time I almost cut Tim's hand off the hatchet?
Oh, I don't remember that. I know you cut a big thing on Jim's leg there.
Is that okay, Jim?
You broke his nose.
No, we did this playing cops and robbers up.
Didn't break your nose, did I?
Yeah, you guys did break my
And
nose.
You
told
guys,
him-
but not just me.
You told him if he come and told me that you'd break his leg.
See how you guys used to treat me and Terry? No, I got that big gash. We were
I know me and
playing
Tim used to
cops
get in a
and
fight
robbers
all
up
the
the hollow
time.
there.
His mouth, his gums would bleed real bad, and it looked like I would cut him up real bad. And all you have to do is just touch him in the mouth, and his mouth would bleed so bad.
We used to have some old trees along here that had big old thorns on them. And Harry Worley knocked Wayne out of the tree one day. I mean, Tim. And he got a big old thorn in there, and I thought I got that thorn out, picked it out, and it looked like every bit of it come out and everything. And I bet it was a month after that, wasn't it? And that hand swelled up to this that big. Well, Nancy come in from school, and I said, Nancy, get on the bus and take him back over to the doctor. Oh, Mommy, I can't go. I said, well, I can't go. The baby's crying and all this and that, you know, and things. So her and Linda Fogelman took him over. Nancy said she told him if he wouldn't cry, they'd buy him some ice cream after he got through. And said, Tim up, sit there and let that doctor work on his hand. And he got a thorn outlet that long, and it was just covered with pus.
You kept that thorn for
I
long.
put it in the envelope and sent it to Ernest. And Ernest said the man that worked with him couldn't believe it. That come out of a little kid's hand.
Mm.
It's a wonder gangrene. I bet it would have if he'd waited much longer, because his hand was.
Terry knocked Debbie out of a tree right out there. And Debbie used to have the headaches all the time after that. And you know, Matt, you remember that time I let Kay McDowell fall out of the car at the church? Opened the car door and she fell out. And she's had the headaches ever since. And Debbie wanted to take her on, Nancy wanted to take her on to the hospital and have her checked, and she would not go. And then I called Mildred after we come home and told her, and I asked her, I said, me and Nancy's going to take Kay over to the doctor and see that. She said, oh, there ain't nothing matter with it, but that youngest had office headaches after
Well,
that.
you remember that time that I just got my driver's license, and we went to the Skyway Drive-In Theater one night.
Yeah.
And you know how you go up Cherry Street and that dip
Yeah.
there?
It was when Granddad got sick.
And we hit that dip, and Granddad's head hit the ceiling, and he got sick. and then die.
He
Died
slept.
later.
He slept all day the next day.
Yeah. He
You're
slept,
kidding.
But we kept
he
him
slept
out.
all day.
Williams or Ratliff?
William. The movie lasted till about 2 o'clock in the morning. I
But
mean,
we
we got
stayed
home
out so
about 2
late.
o'clock, and the next day we just built that new room back there, and he laid there and slept all day long.
How long were you in the war?
3 years, 1 month, and 19 days.
How big was your ship?
It's red long, big as a football field.
How many was on it?
How many was on it?
13,000 troops. 43rd Engineers.
Didn't you go in the war on your birthday? That's what he said.
You came home on your birthday.
On my birthday, I was out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh. How many days were you on the ship?
16 days, and I forget how many. We come back home, on our way back home for about 2 days, and we didn't know it. The troops didn't know. We was chased by submarine, and come back towards home 2 days, and the British corvettes caught up with us, sunk in the submarine.
You get hurt?
Yeah. Got scared to death. Them bombs, depth charges go off. It's like a big giant hammer hit the sides of our ship.
What do you remember the most?
Huh?
What do you remember the most?
Well, I was scared to death.
That's fine. Cut it off.
I wasn't by myself.
You wasn't?
No. All them troops that on there, I guess, scared. Of course, they didn't tell you nothing. You could just read them when actions.
Go ahead.
When you heard about the bombing, what'd you think?
Heard about it.
Yeah.
It just talked itself.
It could talk itself.
Oh.
Just hearing the bombing.
Oh.
The ones you hear don't kill you. The ones you don't hear, those here, you're not here to listen to it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you lose any friends?
no, this is traveling on the ocean.
Traveling on the ocean, Mom.
There wasn't nobody shooting at us on them depth charges that the British corvettes was putting off to sink these submarines. And they sunk them too. And the sea was so rough, them little corvettes would go down, you say, well, he's gone. Directly it'd pop back up out there somewhere. You let off a bunch of depth charges, and then you see people's clothes and stuff come to the top, oil slick.
Ooh.
So that's another one gone.
Hmm.
People's bodies didn't come to the top. They were trapped in that submarine. Well, some of them, they blowed a hole big enough for some of them to come out. Floated at the top. I've never seen any bodies come up in the submarine.
Hmm.
You get a submarine, there's no way of getting safety hatches and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially if the big depth charge hit right on top of it, blows big holes in it. Enough water instantly goes right in. they got 9, I think it said. Of course, it's twice that many depth charges, Corvettes. And, well, that's we landed in Edinburgh, Scotland, and we had to use the pontoon because they didn't have no docks there for these big ships. They'd come out about a half a mile off of the land, and small boats haul us into the place on